how little regard they have for the eternal God's authorship of this book. I'm afraid to leave one part out. The Apostle Paul was afraid to leave one part out. He said, I'm bound to give you the full gospel. He said, I'm bound to give you God's whole mind on this thing, on life and death and threatenings and heaven and hell. But these men sit in judgment and they say, well, Bill, because they've said it to me, Bill, this doesn't appeal to people. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I never thought the Bible was written worried about whether it was going to appeal to anybody. It's God's declaration of from heaven, how He wants His subjects, His creatures, to act, how He expects them to respond. And I don't remember Him asking how I felt about it or you felt about it. And I'm personally not worried about how you feel about it. Now, I want to give you the whole mind of God on these things. Now, if you're in Chicago and you say, well, that guy is very hard on some church I'm not aware of, I'm telling you, and I want to say it clearly, because this is the first time I've said it really clearly to the Chicago people. There are probably tens of thousands of you out there who attend Willow Creek. And I'm going to tell you that I know Willow Creek is like the temple of the gods to most of you, and I'm going to tell you it's a dangerous place to be. Now, if you attend Willow Creek and you want to send me a nasty email or something, be my guest, because I will respond to it if you can show me that it's not a serpent's gospel. If this isn't really, I will come right back here and tell you that I'm wrong. But every time I find somebody from Willow Creek or read something from Willow Creek, we have this policy at Willow Creek where we make it seeker-friendly. That just means they don't tell you the whole gospel. They don't tell you the bad news. God is angry if you're not a born-again believer. He's not mildly angry with you. He's eternally angry with you. And He threatens to do things to you that I would never threaten to do. But the Almighty threatens you. Do you think He won't keep His promise? If I knew this, that the Almighty had threatened to set you in slippery places, let's say. Think about this. What if I said to you, the Almighty Himself has said He will set you in slippery places, that He intends to take you into desolation as in a moment, and that you'll be consumed with terrors. That's a very hard bunch of sayings. That happens to be from Psalm 37. I don't know how to say it, really, except the way I just said it to you. If you attend a church and they want you to think about recovery and addiction and all these things that are never biblical ideas, you need to get out of that church. You need to see if it jibes at all with biblical teaching. If it doesn't, for heaven's sakes, folks, isn't your soul more important than your stupid pride about how you went there? Fact of the matter is, I see people every day in Winnetka who are sick and tired of that namby-pamby gospel that whatever they proclaim it to be, at these mega churches. People want real life. So please listen to me. I don't mean to be harsh, but it's time for me to be plain. And if you disagree with me, tell me why. Okay? I'm trying to do this not to promote me, but to promote your best interest. Thank you.
You sweep them away as with a flood. They are like a dream, like grass that is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and withers. Let your work be shown to your servants, and your glorious power to their children.
You know, sometimes people ask me why I read those passages like that in Psalm 90 so often about the shortness of life. The real reason I do this is because I want to remind myself again just how short life is. How little anything in this world means except the preparation of my soul for the next world. God compares it to grass growing up being cut down by the end of the day. He does that so that you and I will recognize the brevity of our life. He says we're vapors, we're shadows. Christian writers have said through the years, we're people who spend one night at the inn. My beloved Lois said to me last week, tell the people that life here is like living in hotels. When you're on the road in business, you can spend 2 weeks in a hotel, a different run every night. You never think of that as home. You're actually going home. And I think that's appropriate. It's like a hotel existence. You don't get in the hotel and put your best things there and talk about how beautiful this particular hotel room is and you'd like to personalize it. You're not staying. Well, you're not staying here. So please, when the Scripture gives you all of these lessons over and over and over, all these warnings that life is short, take the warning. Heed what it says. Because this isn't home if you're a Christian. It isn't home if you're not a Christian. If you're not a Christian, remember, I'm telling you plainly, this is not your home. You have a home, it just happens to be in hell. You just haven't reached it yet, but you will. Hebrews 9:27 says, it's appointed unto every man once to die and then the judgment. Some people will die and go home to heaven. Some will die and go home to hell. But everybody's going home. There's nobody staying here. You don't know anybody who's stayed here. So, please, make long-term reservations. Decide where your home is. Get on that trail. Hopefully, if you're on the way to hell, it'll seem like a fool's pilgrimage to you and you'll switch sides. Okay? Because if you're a Christian, we want to think of heaven in the most endearing terms. And that's why, if I can remember it again, I'll give you a poem that I just dearly love by a woman named Phoebe Carey. And she says, thinking about heaven, one sweetly solemn thought comes to me over and over. I'm nearer my home today than I've ever been before. Near my Father's house where there many mansions be, near the great white throne, near the crystal sea, near the bounds of life where I lay my burdens down, near leaving the cross, near gaining the crown. Oh, if my feet have almost gained the brink, if I'm nearer home today even than I think. Father, perfect my faith, let my spirit feel in death that his feet are firmly planted on the rock of a living faith. In closing, I want to tell you what one of the things I think ails Christianity today, and of course it's something that I've said in different ways before, and that is the presentation of the gospel in churches today is lame if it's anything in most churches. Now, there are exceptions to that. Like I say, if you're in Winnetka and you can find your way to the Winnetka Bible Church, you will have found a piece of heaven on earth. Pastor Charles is just tremendous, and you can't, I don't know that you can do better. I'm sure there are other good places in Chicago, but that one, since it's there, you have no excuse for going to some of the other cheap grace ones that are so well populated in Chicago. The mega churches are going to die in the next 20 years, and you need to be the first one to desert the sinking ship. Winnetka Bible Church is a good place to land. Say it because I read something recently by, I'm sure it's been written a long time ago, an Alexander White, who I'm not really familiar with. But he was saying, he was talking to, discussing something, the gospel with an actor. And in his day, the theater was full of people and the church was sparse. And he said, you know, what is the problem? What is the reason that the theater is full and the church is empty? And the actor looked at him and said, we in the theater present fiction as if it were fact. And you in the church present fact as if it were fiction. You see, is that really true? Is that the way we do it today? Do we present the facts of life and death and truth and falsehood as if they were fiction, as if we're trying to bottle them so that they appeal to you. Well, you're not the final judge of the value of truth or error, or life and death. God is. If I have anything to say, I will try to say it as plainly as I can to you, because I believe I owe it to you, and I owe it to the Lord to be plain with you. I hope I don't offend you, but I would like to alter your thinking. Please tune in again next week, and we'll pick up this theme of our violence against earthly mindedness. Thanks.
Oh,